Hello and welcome to the Sandbox tutorial. This has been something I've been meaning to put together for a long time, and that is a full series covering end-to-end the Sandbox mode within House Flipper 2. And during this series, we're going to cover everything from setting up Sandbox all the way to getting into building and making jobs, working with Mod.io, and interior design styles. We're going to try to cover one major or central item per episode, and in today's episode we are just going to cover how to set up Sandbox for success. So very quickly, first thing we want to do, you'll have your Sandbox mode here. We can go ahead and click on it and we can jump into a property that we're building, but I'm going to go ahead and click on new property and make a new one. We're just going to call this Sandbox mode, and we have a couple of options for environments. The first one is the coast. It faces east, and it's made to look like kind of the northeast part of the United States. Very beautiful, but just know the sun is rising east over the water, so it's not setting. The next one is the forest, probably the most used one, and will be the one that we will use in this tutorial. The third one is the island, completely surrounded by water. Very pretty, but gives you a really good island flavor. And the fourth one is the town, one of my favorite ones as well. You're not actually in a town, you're in the suburbs, but regardless, it's a nice little bit of ambiance and provides a nice area for building, your typical family homes. We're going to choose the forest, and then down here at the bottom we have different property sizes. You have a very small property, medium size, and a very large property size you can start with. We're going to start with the small property. We're going to keep it simple, but eventually we'll probably expand out into something bigger as we work through the different tools and functions within Sandbox. Once we go ahead and create this, we're going to come into our area here, and you can see we're in a nice pretty forest. We started in the very center of this plot. Very nice. So the first thing to do, especially if this is your first time playing Sandbox, I always recommend is to set up your hotkeys, your toolbar, if you will. So that way you can use numbers 1 through 9 in order to quickly cycle between the different tools. You have a lot of tools in Sandbox. There are generally across 2 different types. There's the type that you can use everywhere, and then there's the job mode only. If you hold down the right mouse button, you will get your full menu of tools. Anything from hands to remove walls to take photos. Anytime you hover over one and you hit a number, so like if I click on surface finishes and I hit 1, it will now show up as my number 1 slot in my hotbar. How you set this up is entirely up to you, but for the duration of this Sandbox, we're going to go with what I am very much used to, which is hands, the architect tool, transform, surface finishes, build walls, remove walls, build roof, the land sculpting, and edit wiring. Play how you want. This is just what I mostly use. Outside of these tools, I also use land painting, land holes, edit land borders, edit grass, and take photos, but I usually only use those maybe once or twice during a build. I mostly focus on the core tools that I've already described. Again, play how you want, but this is how we're going to go. Now, every tool has extra options. So let's say we're in the hand tool, and if you look down in the very bottom left, you'll notice I have snap to grid, and underneath of it the letter R. You can click the letter R to change to precise placement. We'll talk about what that means later, but just know that all these tools have different options, and always a good idea to look at the bottom left of your screen to see if you have another option. So the architect tool, you can see it's got R. You hold it, you get an actual menu now where you can change from cell to change style to even damage items. So all these tools, they all have different functions, different capabilities. Always good idea to look in that bottom left just to see if there's something else that you can do. Now that we've got our hotbar set up, the next thing I like to do, especially in sandbox mode, is to check where the player is starting. So often I see things in sandbox and mod.io where the user, the modder, has not changed the player start position, and the player starts in the middle of a wall. And if you start in the middle of the wall, especially on a job, the player will fall and keep falling through the world over and over again and will be unable to play your job. So always good, first time coming in, just as a really good practice, is to go in to the edit land borders. When you do, you'll come into this mode, you can see the land borders. So you can see right now we're at 66 foot and 8 inches. You can expand that out, but most importantly, you should see this little dude right here. You can see his eyeballs. This is the way he's facing. That's exactly the way we started. We need to move him. So we're just going to come up here. I'm just going to do it from the road. And I'm going to hit Q. And you can see that down at the bottom of the screen. If in case you forget what Q does, it tells you right there at the bottom. You hit Q and it will move the player to where you're standing. So if I wanted to face this way, I could hit Q, and now you can see the eyeballs are facing that way. A couple other buttons that are going to be very important as we work through this series is G, or double space. G allows the player to fly. So that way you can fly around. You can also fly through the earth and look under it. But G, very important. And you can also hit double space to go into the mode. And if you hit double space, it will exit you back out. Very, very useful tool. Last thing, if you're on PC, I don't know what it is on a console, but on PC, you can hit the letter H and your HUD will disappear. This is great for taking photos, your own photos, for capturing video. Really up to you, but that's how you remove your HUD. And you can just bring it back by hitting H. Another great item is going to be Z, which is undo, something exclusive to sandbox mode. If we were to go just buy something, place it down, you can hit Z and it will remove it. Z is only useful, the undo is only works during your current session, so we couldn't save this, exit, come back and hit Z to undo something. It wouldn't work that way. It's only during your current session, and unfortunately it's not with every action. So there are some actions like painting the roof or the ceilings. Sometimes the ceilings on a roof doesn't allow you to undo it, and that's okay, but just know that it doesn't always work that way. But Z, really good friend. Again, G for flying, H for removing your HUD, and always be on the lookout in that bottom left for extra items you can do with your different tools. The last thing I want to say is make sure you save. I know you saw just a little bit ago a little house icon pop up in the bottom right. That's the game auto-saving. That's great. Always go in and hit save. Very, very important. Save, save, save. Alright, so I think that's going to be it for this episode. We just covered a very basic setup. I hope you enjoy, and we'll see you all in the next one.